All right, so I'm going to want to make sure that I open up a brand new file for this next lesson. So I'm going to come over here and go to File, File New. And if I'm given an option, the file that I really want to open is large objects inches. And just open this up. So I have a brand new file, but the main thing that I really want to make sure is I want to make sure that my units are in inches. All right, so down here, if you look down here, it should say inches. Right. If not, let's double check. I'm just going to type in the word units, UNITS, and just hit enter. And this should pop up. Again, I'm just double checking that my model units, not my layout units, but my model units is in inches. If it is not, then just make sure you change this to inches and hit OK. If you're on a Mac, you can do the same thing. Again, just type in units. And again, what you're looking for is your model units to be in inches. Also, for the remainder of these videos, I'm going to be primarily using the PC version, but if you want your Mac version to look like the PC version, you can come over here to Rhino Preferences, click on Themes, and in your options, instead of it saying Rhino for Mac, just say Rhino for Windows. Close this and just restart your Mac. Restart your Rhino for Mac. And then once you do, you should have all these extra tabs, so it looks similar to the PC version. All right, so once we're in here, I'm going to go to my top view, double click on top, and I'm going to go over some basic commands like move and copy and rotate. But first, I want something on my screen. I'm going to come over here and click on the rectangle tool. I'm going to click somewhere on my screen. It does not matter where I'm clicking, just anywhere on my screen. And on my keyboard, I'm going to hit 6, enter, 6, enter. And essentially, what I've made is I've made a 6-inch by 6-inch square. I'm going to just change a quick setting just so you can see this a little bit better. Make this line just a little bit thicker just to make it a little bit easier to see. That might make it a little bit easier to see. Okay, so what I have is just a 6-inch by 6-inch square. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to move this, but I just want to show you the basic layout that that Rhino has. All right, so if I want to move this object, there's a couple different ways I can do this. I can look over here on these list of icons, and there's the move icon right there. Or I could also go up here, transform, move. Or I can just start typing. So if I just hit the letter M, it doesn't matter where my mouse is. Like my mouse is over here. I just type the letter M. And all of a sudden, my command line, it gives me all the commands that start with M. And as I start to type and move, and just hit enter, it does the same thing as the others. So it's just now at this point, the move command is ready. And it's asking me select the objects to move. So I'm just going to select this object. Press enter when done. So I just hit the enter key. And then it's asking point to move from. So for now, I'm just going to click somewhere. And then it's looking at my command line. It says the point to move to. So again, I'm just going to move my mouse. It doesn't matter where. And I'm just going to move that square. So essentially, I just moved it. But now I just want to make a few more extra commands and actually start to move this object in a very precise manner. But before I do that, I want to just double check that this is really 6 inches by 6 inches. So I'm going to type in the word distance. And if I look at my command line, it says first point for distance. And I really don't want to eyeball where I'm actually making these distance clicking, right? I actually want to make sure I'm snapping to like an endpoint. So I'm going to come down here where it says OSNAP, which stands for Object Snap. I'm going to turn this on. And for now, this is the only option that I want turned on. All these other options, Grid Snap, Ortho, Planar, Smart, Gumball, and Record History, I want to make sure everything is off except for Object Snap. And just for now, I want to make sure all of these are unchecked except for end. Right? If you're on a Mac, they're located in a slightly different area. They're located, they should be located right around here. Right? Just make sure you at least have end turned on. So again, I have Object Snap turned on. I have end check. My command is still running, so it's asking me first point for distance. So I click on this endpoint and this endpoint, and it's telling me my distance is 6 inches. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So now what I want to do is I want to copy these a couple different times. But when I copy them, I just want to make sure that I'm snapping from an endpoint to an endpoint. Right? So I could either click on the copy icon. I can come over here to transform copy, or I can just type in the command. So I'm just going to type it in, copy, hit enter, and just follow the command line. So select objects to copy. I select this object, press enter when done, press enter, and then point to copy from. So I'm going to make sure that I'm snapping at this endpoint and going to this endpoint, and clicking on this endpoint and clicking on this endpoint. And then once I'm done, I just hit enter or escape. And now I've copied this object a couple times. Right, so now let's use the move command one more time. But now that we have this set up, now we could actually move these objects and actually snap to other places. So a few helpful snap options to have turned on. I always have the end turned on. I always have near turned on, midpoint, intersection, and perpendicular. Normally those 5 I always have turned on. The other ones I turn them on and off as I need them. But now let's use the move command again. So I'm going to type in move, select the object, hit enter, point to move from. So for example, I'm going to move this one from this endpoint, and now I'm going to move this to the midpoint of this line. And I'm going to move this one. I'm going to move it from this midpoint. And instead of going to this midpoint, I just want to click somewhere near the line. Just for now, I'm just eyeballing it, just getting used to these different options down here. Right, and then this one, if I move this again, I can move this one somewhere near the line to the endpoint, for example. Right, so just different ways, now getting used to moving something and actually snapping it to exactly where you want it to go. So we've covered move, copy, so let's do rotate. So I'm going to take one of these, I'm going to move this. I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm going to copy this a couple times. And as I'm copying them, if you have all these options turned off over here, you might see that you're able to move this in any direction. Just for now, I'm going to temporarily turn on ortho, just so that these are all moving in a straight line, pretty much. And I'll just copy a few of them. All right, so now to actually rotate one of these, so I'm going to click rotate, click this option, Again, I'm just following my command line. Select objects to rotate, press enter when done, so I press enter. And the center of the rotation. So the center of the rotation, I'm going to click at the endpoint. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to make my next click at this endpoint. And if I wanted to, I'm going to move my mouse straight up, and I'm going to click at this endpoint at the top. So now I've rotated around the center point, and I've made sure that this point was landing or at the point that was up here. So you can, when you rotate an object, you can just click on different parts of the screen or different parts of different objects. If you know the exact angle, right? I can click on the rotate command, click the center of the center of the rotation, click another point. And if I know I want this rotated, for example, 30 degrees, I just type in 30, enter. And now it's rotated this object exactly 30 degrees from that origin. So to go over the scale icon, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to actually go to this last one. So I know the distance of this is 6 inches by 6 inches. All right, I'm going to use the scale icon, scale 3D. And I'm going to click this object. Again, just following the command line, press enter when done. And I'm going to click the center point, or the endpoint, the bottom endpoint. Click this extra line. So now I've clicked 2 points. And now what I'm telling it, what I want to tell it is I want this line to be 12 inches instead of 6 inches. So I just type in 12, enter on my keyboard. And now this line should be 12 inches, and I'll double check by typing in distance. And I can click these 2 endpoints, and it's exactly 12 inches. And because I started off with this as a square, so this should be 12 inches as well. All right, so now I'm going to I'm going to scale this object, but I'm going to use a different scale command. I'm going to use a command that's hidden inside the scale icon. So if you click and hold down this triangle at the bottom right, when you click and hold down, you'll see that there's other icons hidden inside. And the one that I'm looking for is the one that says scale 1D. So it's going to scale this object in 1 dimension. So when I click on that object, again, it says select objects to scale. I click this object. I can hit the enter key at this point. Another key you could also hit, it does the exact same thing, is the spacebar. So I hit the spacebar. I click this bottom endpoint and this top endpoint. And now when I move my mouse, instead of it scaling the entire object, it's only scaling it in the direction of these 2 points where I clicked. So now I want this to be, for example, I'll make this 15 inches and hit enter. So now if I double check this distance, this is now 15 inches. But it should have kept this distance at 6. Right, but so again, the way this scale 1D icon or command works, it depends on which 2 points you click. So for example, if I clicked on this point and this diagonal point, and I said I wanted this to be a certain distance, it'll scale this, the distance that I want, but you can see how it's starting to deform the rest of this object because it's only scaling it in this one direction. And that's the basics of copy and scale and rotate.